Page 63, No Laughing Matter, Professor Tuesday's Office, Tuesday. When Tamika and I got to the professor's office after school on Tuesday, we were surprised to see the professor's nephew. But that wasn't all. We were shocked to see a strange animal sitting quietly on top of the table at the far side of the professor's office. I turned to Tamika. "This is Mr. Adams," I said. "He's the professor's nephew." Tamika gave Mr. Adams a wave as she curiously eyed him up and down. "What kind of name is Mr. Adams for a little kid?" she asked. The professor leaned toward Tamika and smiled. His mother wanted to give him an important name, one that people would remember. He pointed to Mr. Adams. "John Adams was the first president of the United States and the second president of our country. You may be interested to know that John Adams was one of our founding fathers, and he was against slavery." "What's a founding father?" I asked. "Founding father is a term used to describe the early political leaders of the United States who worked to form our country." Tamika looked puzzled. Why didn't his mother call him John or John Adams? Professor Tuesday patiently explained that Abigail Adams, John Adams' wife, often called her husband Mr. Adams. So the professor's sister gave her son that name because it sounded very important. Tamika just shook her head. "That's good, I suppose, but it is still a funny name for a little kid." I was curious about the animal on the professor's table. "Where'd you get that skunk?" I asked. "It won't spray me or anything, will it?" The skunk instantly came to life and scurried across the table toward us. Then it stopped short. Tamika and I screamed and ran toward the door. Mr. Adams burst out laughing. Professor Tuesday walked over to his nephew and took the remote control from him. "Mr. Adams, you're a stinker. You shouldn't have scared our guests like that. Now say you're sorry for frightening them." Mr. Adams looked sad and made the letter A and moved his hand in a circle over his heart. "That means he's sorry," I said. "He learned that sign in school." Tamika suddenly spoke up. "Don't let it spray us." "It's not real," answered the professor with a chuckle. "That little critter is going to help us do our research on the Underground Railroad. It will help us go to places and see things safely. I call it the Tuesday Critter Camp, and I can't wait to show you how it works." "Are we going to use the skunk today?" Tamika asked. Professor Tuesday scowled and looked at my friend over the tops of his glasses. "Please do not call my invention a skunk. It's a Tuesday Critter Camp." "But a skunk is the perfect animal for your invention," I said. "If anyone sees it, they sure won't go near it." "I suppose that's a good point," the professor said. "Well, are we going to use the Critter Camp today or not?" Tamika asked. "Yes," answered the professor. "That's another reason why I've invited Mr. Adams to join us today. It will take at least 2 people to work the Critter Cam and the Tuesday Teleporter at the same time. You'll see." "So where are we going, and what are we going to see first?" Tamika asked. The professor smiled. "I think we'll visit a barber in southern Indiana." "A barber?" I asked. "Shouldn't we visit somebody who was important in the Underground Railroad?" The Underground Railroad was made up of many different kinds of people. Some were ministers, some were farmers, some were business owners, some were young, and some were old. People who helped escape slaves weren't all black, and they weren't all white either. They were just ordinary people who believed in equal rights for everyone, regardless of race. "Who is this barber we're going to see, and what makes him so special?" Tamika asked. Professor Tuesday started tapping information into his laptop as he answered. "His name is George DeBaptiste, and he's special for a lot of different reasons." The professor stopped for a moment and looked at Tamika and me. "He was born a free African-American in Virginia in either 1814 or 1815. No one knows for sure. He was trained as a barber and worked as a personal servant for wealthy people. DeBaptiste and his wife moved to Madison, Indiana in 1838. That's where we're taking the Tuesday Critter Cam. I can't wait to see how it works." The professor turned to Mr. Adams. "Are you ready with the Critter Cam?" Mr. Adams nodded his head. Then he tested the invention by making it go back and forth. The professor turned on the webcam and microphone. Everything was working perfectly. Professor Tuesday hit the enter key on his laptop, and his office lit up like a fireworks show. Squares of light circled the room faster and faster. Suddenly, a green fog appeared right in front of us. It was the Tuesday Teleporter. Mr. Adams worked the remote control, and the Critter Cam moved slowly toward the green fog. The professor nodded to Mr. Adams, and his nephew pressed on the joystick. The wheels of the Critter Cam sped up, and it disappeared into the green fog. Tamika and I gathered around the professor's laptop to watch. Lights and sounds from the teleporter filled the screen as the critter cam tumbled through time and back into the 1840s. When the lights stopped, there was a deadly silence, and the screen went black. "What's wrong?" Tamika asked. "Nothing," said the professor as he worked on his equipment. Slowly, images started to take shape on the screen of the laptop. "We're visiting Madison, Indiana at night. I just have to adjust the camera so we can see better in the dark." The critter cam edged forward in the dark. Gradually, a building began to take shape along the edge of the clearing in the woods. "Mr. Adams," the professor said, "if my figures are correct, that building over there is what I want to visit. Move the critter cam a little closer, please." Mr. Adams pushed the joystick forward, and the critter cam moved silently toward the building. Tamika jumped and gasped out loud when she noticed a man creeping along in the dark. The man stopped and looked around carefully. Then he took a key out of his pocket and fiddled with a large lock on the door. "Is he a runaway slave?" Tamika asked nervously. "Will he escape?" "No," the professor replied. "He's the owner of a stable. This is his building. There is a special wagon inside the building." "What's so special about it?" I asked. "You'll have to wait and see," answered the professor. "Mr. Adams, follow the man, but keep back a safe distance so the critter cam stays hidden. We may have more visitors shortly." The heavy wooden door to the building creaked open, and the man stepped inside. He lit a lantern that cast a dim light on the contents of the building. As the critter cam approached, we could see a broken-down wagon and some horses. Then we saw the man approach the horses. "What's he doing?" I asked.